Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to uncover a totally invisible force. It's one that's constantly pulling your attention, shaping your choices, and literally guiding your eyes without you even realizing it's happening. We're talking about visual movement. Whether you're effortlessly scrolling through your favorite app, walking through a massive building, or just staring at a billboard on your commute, there's a hidden guide at work. Let's uncover exactly how designers completely master this art of movement.
Okay, let's dive into this. Is good design ever truly static? We tend to think of a printed image, a poster, or a photograph as completely still, lifeless even. But the reality? The absolute best designs are never just sitting there. Even though the ink on the page or the pixels on the screen aren't physically moving around, your eyes certainly are. Still images can, and absolutely must, create a really powerful sense of motion.
All right, moving right along to Section 1, the illusion of motion. So let's look at how we actually define this. Visual movement is the visual path a viewer naturally follows while observing a design. Designers use this invisible path to completely control your attention, the direction you look, the exact sequence you process information in, and how you interact with the piece. Notice the crucial distinction here. Well, actually, it's more of a realization. Movement in design doesn't always mean actual physical motion. Fun fact for you, our eyes actually process information in these rapid, jerky little jumps called saccades. Good design basically creates an illusion of motion that tells those jumps exactly where to land next, ensuring you experience the whole thing exactly the way the creator intended.
Section 2. Tools to guide the eye. The first tool in the toolkit is one of the most fundamental, lines, specifically diagonal and curved lines. They are fantastic in naturally guiding the eye because they act as literal pathways. Think of a gorgeous aerial photograph showing the winding, curved roads of the Western Ghats. Your eye naturally starts at the bottom and just follows that road all the way up the mountain. Or think of fashion. Picture the sweeping, flowing silhouette of a beautifully draped sari. The curved lines of that fabric literally pull your eyes right along the garment.
The second tool is repetition and rhythm. When you repeat elements, they naturally encourage the eye to kind of bounce and travel across the composition. Imagine looking at the repetitive, rhythmic arches of a historic Rajasthani palace, or maybe the repeating floral motifs in traditional block printing. You can't help it. Your eye just naturally jumps from one arch to the next, or one flower to the next. It creates this beautiful, continuous flow of movement.
Next up, we have contrast and emphasis, and wow, this one is incredibly powerful. Strong focal points act exactly like visual magnets. When you place a super dark element right next to a very light one, or maybe drop a bright splash of color into a sea of gray, boom, it attracts immediate attention. The designer essentially creates a starting point and then cleverly uses secondary points of contrast to dictate exactly where your visual flow goes next.
Tool number 4. Shapes and direction. You see, certain shapes are just inherently directional. Arrow-like forms or gestures in a photograph, like a person pointing or physically looking in a specific direction, they literally tell your brain, hey, look over here. They physically point your eye exactly where it needs to go next.
And finally, spacing and layout. Think of this as the silent director. It's all about the careful arrangement of elements. How much empty space is around an object? How are those paragraphs of text aligned? The way a designer carefully organizes a layout completely dictates how smoothly we scan information. It ensures we don't feel overwhelmed and that we naturally read from the most important detail straight down to the least important.
Which brings us to Section 3. Why visual movement matters.
Must be honest, without movement, a design totally falls apart. It just feels static. But more than that, it feels confusing and completely disconnected. If a layout doesn't explicitly tell your eye where to go, everything on the page competes for your attention all at once. The layout becomes chaotic, it's lifeless, it completely fails to create a visual experience over time, basically leaving you lost and, let's face it, likely wanting to look away. But contrast that with deliberate movement. Suddenly, the design is purposefully guiding your attention. It dramatically improves readability, making it so much easier to consume information quickly. It creates this natural interaction and adds a really vital sense of energy and flow. Movement takes control of how you travel through the design. It transforms it from a confusing jumble of stuff into a beautifully guided tour. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is Section 4, Movement Across Design Fields.
So, look at this. Whether you're admiring a dress or navigating an app, the core principle remains exactly the same. In graphic design, movement guides viewers through those incredibly dynamic Bollywood movie posters. In UI/UX, it's the invisible hand that smoothly guides your thumb through Zomato or Swiggy without an ounce of frustration. In fashion, it's the elegant, rhythmic flow of a lehenga as someone walks. In interior design, it's how a traditional courtyard home effortlessly guides you straight to the central open space. In animation, well, it's literal frame-by-frame action. And in architecture, structural lines guide your physical movement, kind of like the intricate descending stairs of an ancient stepwell. Entirely different applications, but the exact same foundational principle.
Moving into Section 5, the emotional impact. Take a second and just look at the stark psychological difference here. Fast, sharply directional movement, it feels incredibly energetic, exciting, dynamic. It grabs you, pushes you forward quickly, and literally raises your pulse. But on the flip side, soft, flowing movement completely changes the atmosphere. It feels calm, elegant, deeply natural. Just by tweaking the type of lines or adjusting the spacing, a designer can completely alter your internal pacing and your emotional response. It's almost like a superpower. And that leads perfectly into this quote. Designers, therefore, use movement to shape mood and user engagement. Movement creates visual storytelling. I really want to drive this point home for a second. Movement isn't just about figuring out the reading order of a web page. Not at all. It is a critical, foundational tool for creating a mood and telling a story. It is quite literally the invisible narrator of the design.
All right, Section 6. Train your design eye.
Okay, I have a bit of homework for you. The next time you open up a website, look at a social media post, admire a garment, or even just walk into a building, I urge you to pause. Just take a second and consciously ask yourself, where does my eye go first? Okay, where does it jump to next? Which specific elements are guiding this movement? And ultimately, does this design feel smooth, or is it a visually confusing mess? Just pause and observe, because this is exactly how top designers study visual flow. They are constantly noticing these invisible threads pulling their attention every single day.
So, the crucial point is this right here. Good design does not only attract attention, it guides attention. Think about it. Getting someone to look at something? That's easy. You just make it super loud or blindingly bright. But guiding them through an experience naturally, seamlessly, and meaningfully? Now that is the true art of visual movement.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought. Just look around the room you're sitting in right now, or look at the screen of the device you're holding. What is the invisible guide pulling your eyes right at this very moment? I promise you, once you start seeing the visual flow around you, you are never going to look at the world the exact same way again. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through visual movement.